Doesn't matter. Yeah, it's tough to do that stuff. It goes back to the same loop of, well, there's people who have put this stuff out there that's good enough. You know, the more deeper stuff that I want to talk about, the psychology stuff. Not the shitty psychiatrist that dumps people on drugs and stuff. But there have been people who've been critical of this stuff. There have been people who've talked about the things I like talking about. Molyneux was mentioned in a comment. I mentioned him as well. What's his face, Mackler? He still puts out some decent videos on family stuff. In fact, he put out some. I'll link to this in the timestamps, I'm sure. Timestamps are always a good source of information in these videos. But it's like, that stuff is good enough. In the same way that Guerrero was good enough as well, and yet nobody else is doing anything with it. Nobody else is doing anything with that sort of psychology stuff very much, to the point where it's like, okay, what's the point? What's the point? What's the point of putting this out there? What's the point of any of this? You know, maybe I can make it a little better if I'm feeling particularly manic that day. And it's like, okay, maybe I could put it out better. But if the good enough stuff doesn't attract enough people to where it's, you know, I think I might want to answer the comment. You know what, fuck it, we'll just go for it. Somebody did mention Molyneux in one of the comments, in one of the numerous 3 comments over the last week or two, which I do feel kind of bad about not answering them. But it's like, as you can tell, you know, I'm not well. I am not well. This is as good as it's gonna get. So, but one of the things with it, I think it was like call Molyneux or something, because he does some call-in stuff. You know, and it's like, that's not even tempting on some level, because he does some of the more basic stuff, he does pretty well. You don't have to be around nasty people. Okay, well, I'm not around nasty people anymore, but where are decent people? Where are the people that I can talk to about not being around nasty people? I haven't been around my father. My mother died years ago, but haven't been around my father in, what, 6-7 years now. 2012, 13, carry the 7, okay. Okay, well, how many people have made that step and said, yeah, fuck this? You know? How many people? And that's, I think, where Molyneux sort of got stuck as well, which is, he used to be a lot more closer to people. You know, barbecues at his house, I kind of started listening to that stuff once that whole thing went down, you know, and then his wife kind of got in trouble, and we can't talk about it, even though she really did nothing wrong, but you can't even then defend. Ooh. There's some stuff going on there that'll be fun to talk about maybe one day. And that does give me hope. Gossiping. Talking about things later. You know. You know, but he did get stuck on that very basic stuff that he doesn't. And part of it is there were people who drifted away from his orbit. You know, they sort of reneged on these things. There were some people who came out of that and said, oh, it's a cult, and oh, I'm back with my family now, and blah, 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 Molyneux sucks. You know, that sort of stuff. And there were some people who were somewhat close to the guy. And it's like, hey, Moly, especially now that you're doing race and IQ stuff, and a lot of stuff is genetic, you know, how much of people's ability to sort of break free out of the conformity of their environments that they find themselves in, how much of that is genetic, do you think? How much of your lack of success in mentoring people close one-on-one? Because a lot of those people just didn't stick around, right? How much of that is genetic? What lessons have you learned from that? But he's not going to talk about that, right? He couldn't talk about that. You know? And then wait a second, you know, speaking of the why, well, do we want to go into that? I don't want to put stuff out there where, well, no, I do want to ramble. It feels good. I do want more supporting evidence, but it's interesting that if you've ever seen the Joe Rogan podcast where he starts shitting all over Molyneux, he's like, oh, your wife, she was suspended from this thing, from her psychological, and then Molyneux was like, no, that's not the right word. No, that never happened. Well, I don't know what word Joe Rogan used, but it's like, if you look it up, the suspension was suspended, and the whole case is out there for people to see. Now, I'm not trying to shit on her. I'm not one of those trolls or one of those parents who want to shit all over Moly. you read that stuff and it's like, she did nothing wrong, right? But Molyneux can't say that because the wife stayed with the whole psychology field. And it's like, wait a second, these people said you're guilty. I don't know what it was some I don't know what the words are, but they're like, don't do this. And they said you can't be on you can't be on the FDR podcasts anymore. You can't make your own podcasts. And as long as you take that slap on the wrist and you go through this bullshit course, then the suspension is suspended until that. So she got a slap on the wrist basically. Now, I'm not saying, oh, that shows she's guilty, and oh, look at that, she's giving unsolicited advice, and oh my God, it's a cult. I'm saying she did nothing wrong. If you listen to those old podcasts where she is talking, she did nothing wrong. She was always the more milquetoast of the two anyways. And she didn't say anything that, I don't know, Dr. Phil won't say. It really wasn't anything all that, So then, the big question is, why would you stay with that field? If these people, this is how they treat you, why would you stay with those people? Why would you stay? Why would you not say, well, fuck you? And, Molyneux mentioned back in the early, maybe 10 years ago now that, oh, me and my wife wrote a book exposing some of the psychology stuff when she was working at a hospital or something, right? But we're going to wait to release that. When it would have been a good time to release it and put a new introduction there? When she had the suspension or something, when she got into trouble, right? It's like, hey, these assholes are... So why did she not quit? Why did she not quit? Why did Molly not say, look, these people, this is not a field that's very healthy. Right. She must have been like, oh, well, no, I'm going to do this actually. I don't want to be so involved in this, and that's just how it is. I'm wearing the pants now. I would love to have been the fly on the wall in that conversation. Because it's like, it's not like she was, I don't think she was threatened with anything other than, you better do this or your license might be suspended if you don't take the slap on the wrist, right? But why not say, look, sorry. Or maybe even take the slap on the wrist so if you ever need to, and then a year later, and it's been, that was 2012 or something, and then say, well, fuck this, Why stay in that field where they're like, sorry, you can't express kind of banal opinions on these podcasts? Because if you look at the complaint or whatever the term of it is, the proceedings, the very first part of it, and I will link to this, they have a couple kill quotes where it's like, oh, she said this, oh my God. And none of it's all that incriminating. It's like, really? But to their credit, or as much credit as you can give these people, they do give bigger paragraphs. Now, they don't link to specific podcasts or anything, but they seem to give an accurate transcript. And it's like, they give maybe 2 or 3 or 4 paragraphs worth of actual substantive in-context quotes. And it's like, really? That's the worst you people can do? Really? So it's like, again, I think she really didn't do anything wrong insofar as what she was accused of, that, oh, well, she's doing this. What was wrong is she didn't say, fuck you guys, I'm quitting. And again, it's fun to gossip, but if the question is why not talk to Molyneux, it's like, well, because he kind of got stuck there. He kind of got stuck at, okay, I have a wife and kids, this is fun. Okay, I can't actually have that many people that close to me. Some of them kind of flake out, and then, we can't really talk about the wife stuff because she kind of went back. Because again, anybody who's sufficiently well-versed in that stuff is going to say, well, wait a second, why didn't she quit? Molyneux has recommended, but when people say, oh, I want to be a psychologist, I've heard him say on call-in shows or whatever, well, that's very credentialed, and you might want to look into other things, maybe life coaching or stuff like that. There's less rigorous things. It's like, okay, well, guess who else could have maybe had a slight change of careers? The wife, right? So, and that's what I see is I don't see too many people close to Moly, right? I don't see too many people close, because with the Guerrero thing by itself, or even the psychology stuff that I can't for the life of me start very easily, even though it's all right here, you know, oh boy, that exertion there, you know, jumping over this thing. I forgot what I'm thinking about. Okay, yeah, if I had people around for the Guerrero thing, I mean, I'm not sure if it would be a 24/7 live feed, but yeah, it'd be like, hey, this is fun, this is what we do, come join us, right? That sort of thing. I mean, again, no ugly people, you know, that sort of thing. But, how many minutes? 21, and the battery's flashing. Well, I think, you know, I might actually chop this off as the reply. Or use it as a rough draft for... No, see, I need to complain. You know, I'm an honorary Jew who needs to get going by complaining about everything that's going on so then I can complain about the real things that are going on wrong. I'm an honorary Jew, everybody. Oy vey, batteries, yeah. Let's complain about the battery not working instead of... let's see here. So if there were people around with the Guerrero thing, or if I could ever get talking about the parent stuff, the psychology stuff, the early Molyneux stuff, if I could, and there were people around for that, yeah, you know, those people, well, let's do a podcast together, let's talk about it, not just kind of jump in with one or two people and then never see you again. It's fine, better than most people. What Molyneux still puts out, even on that stuff, some of the call-in shows, I still like them, you know, but it just doesn't get deeper, it doesn't get personal. It's like, I live in a nice place here in terms of the environment. There's trees everywhere. Wouldn't it be great if, like, everywhere around me, I could just be like, hey, there's a guy here who kind of gets all this stuff. Well, where is that, you know? I don't think Molyneux built that. I know he didn't. So, to talk to him, I already, as much as he can teach me, I already know, all right? And that's a lot, you know, because there are very few people. I haven't really seen anybody. You know, the psychology books that I started reading and realizing my parents suck and everybody else around me sucks. Those are one or two little books. They didn't talk about the rest of the world sucking, which is why I found them not so great. And we'll talk about that hopefully one day. But Molyneux went a little further. The volume of the material is a lot better as well. But it's like the psychology books I started reading, it's here, Molyneux's here, I don't know, it's right. And it's like, well, it's not quite enough. It didn't get us far enough here, you know? It's like, I'm still in the desert, it's still fucking hot, I'm running out of water here, and you know what's going on, right? So talk to him. Well, what can I talk to him about? You know, he's probably okay with having a wife and kids. He's probably okay with, and you know, he gets to comment things, but, you know, you tell me that's your life, is you don't really seem to have as many of those close communal contacts, those kind of lived-in experiences, and you get to do PowerPoints for the next 20 years, like, fucking shoot me now, right? It's just not enough. That's a means to an end, I think. You know, it's like, okay, let's do PowerPoint. And that's why I haven't been able to do PowerPoints and other kind of presentations. I'm a smart guy. I'd love to do this stuff. I used to debate and be very smarty pants about this stuff. But it's like, what's the point, you know?